So what do you do when you just have that sense that you don't really know who you are anymore? I'm glad you asked because we're going to work on that today in this next entry into the Leadership Library. Hi, it's David with another entry into the Leadership Library for you. That person who sees around corners, who you see the future that nobody else yet can see. And the ideas and tools in this library will help you build your path to bring that vision to life. So what do you do when you have this sense of, I just don't know who I am anymore? Well, what you've fallen into is your sense of identity is starting to change. And during big change, not only is the outside world changing, a lot of times, we want the outside world to change. We don't realize that we need to change with it. I like to say, you can't transform your world without transforming the way you lead. And that is very personal. But the identity change, even though it happens all the time, when we start to recognize it, especially the big moments, it can get really comfortable. First of all, you know that your identity changes. Think about how you thought of yourself or who you thought you were a year ago. It's different than today, right? Or 5 years ago or 20 years ago. So we have a knowledge that our sense of who we are is always on the move. But if it happens too quickly or in a way that we weren't expecting, we can start to get uncomfortable. So let me just give you background. First of all, I would highly encourage you to watch the foundational video about transformational change, which I shared in the library already. And you can capture a link of it. You just click on this link up in the upper right-hand corner. It will take you there, and it will give you the foundation that will make this video even more powerful for you. The sense of it is that we all have a sense of a way of looking at the world. I call that your reality. You can call it your point of view, your mental model, whatever you want. But we all have a unique way of looking at the world and receiving what's going on in the world. Based on that, we choose moves to make. We make particular decisions. We have our success strategies. But from an infinite world of possible moves and success strategies, based on our reality, we come up with a more narrow list. We use those in some combination to produce results. And as long as the results are working for us, we're fine. If not, we can usually come back and just make a different move that already exists. But there are times when the world is asking us to change, or we're asking the world to change so much that we can keep coming back and trying another move and another move that's already in that portfolio based on this reality, and they all fall short. And that's when we need to make the big move. It doesn't happen very often. Probably less than 1% of your lifetime is spent there, but you need to know how to do it, otherwise you're going to get stuck. That's when you need to change your reality. That's what I talk about in the video that I just referenced. But when this is happening is often when your sense of who you are is going to start to break down, and it really does get kind of scary. But what we need to understand is that your sense of who you are and my sense of who we are is made up. You recognize that when you realize, well, a year ago I had a different story, and 5 years ago I had a different story, but we believe our story about ourselves so much that when it starts to shift and we feel it or we notice it, it's like the earth is shifting under us and we're going to get swallowed up. We're going to disappear. We're not going to matter. It can be really scary and painful. But what we need to do is to reframe it. First of all, when you try to defend it, when you feel the anxiety, a lot of times you try to defend your current sense of who you are, and that's just going to keep you stuck. It's not serving you in the way, it feels like it would be a lot safer if I could just defend things and keep things right how I am. But actually what you're doing is you're keeping yourself stuck, or you're fighting to keep yourself stuck in an old reality that's not working for you based on where you said that you want to go. So you're attached to a made-up idea and you're fighting hard for it. So the question you can ask is, can you start to just accept a sense of yourself that's the changing self, that's not letting yourself be defined by what your title is or what other people think of you. Understand, we're always changing, but we get attached to thinking it's one thing. So can you begin to believe it or look at it as understanding it's actually fluid? Anything is just a story that I've made up about myself. And calling it a story doesn't mean I don't respect it, but it's not necessarily reality. It's a story, it's a tale, it's an interpretation of who we think we are. And as our reality either begins to shift because it needs to, or because you said, I want to produce very different results, and you need a different reality, you cannot transform your business, you cannot transform results without transforming the way you lead or who you are. So let me tell you three things that you can expect if you are willing to jump in. I like to say never squander a crisis. These moments of change like this are the biggest opportunities, the biggest upside as possible when you're willing to lean into this. And the truth is, reality is going to change you, or your reality is probably going to change. You can go there kicking and screaming and suffering and spend a lot of energy and time on it, or you can lean in. So the three things that I would tell you that you can anticipate is, first, that the change always seems scarier than it will actually be. As you anticipate the change that's coming, to the world around you, or your sense of who you are, it's going to freak you out, and it's going to, honestly, to some of us, it feels like death. Some might say it's the death of the ego, or at least to the ego, it feels like death. It's just the next stage. So it's always going to look scarier than it actually will, the way you anticipate it. Second, when you're actually going through the process, it's not as stressful because as you think it will, because in fact, I would say it's not stressful because you're present. When you're actually doing the work and you're leaning in, you're so present. Stress comes from, I'm worried about the future, or I'm focusing on things that went wrong or I didn't like in the past. When you are actually present, it's incredibly difficult to be stressed. So when you're actually going through the process, the stress that you anticipated doesn't show up. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's not difficult, but the stress, all the terror that you are anticipating doesn't show up. The third thing to know is that when you get on the other side of it and you look back, the upside will always be better than you ever could have imagined. It will always exceed that because you've changed your reality. The possibilities of what can come from it based on your different reality are things that you could have never imagined from your old reality. So it's always going to be, the upside is always going to be better than you anticipated. So I offer you those three things. If you find yourself fighting what this change that's coming, to just remember, okay, from this side it looks really bad, but if I just go in and get present, the upside will be better than I anticipated. So remember, you cannot transform your world without transforming who you are in the world. And that's the opportunity that this discomfort is telling you is coming your way if you lean in. So you can fight it if you want, but I would suggest actually what you do is you adopt the saying and the mindset that I do when I find myself in this uncomfortable place. And I say, I'm on the verge of a breakthrough. And that attitude shift allows you to lean in and not fight it and get the full benefit with a lot less pain versus putting a lot of effort into something that's going to waste you. Don't squander this crisis. There's something good ahead of you. I can't wait to hear how you apply this, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.